Hey everyone, so our next talk is called #FreeAlex, Web3 Activism Handbook, and is presented by Mykola Siusko. Enjoy.
Test. It's working. Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about Web3 activism, and I think it's the best time for us not only to work within our computers, but also connect with lots of people around the world and develop an interesting social campaigns together. And today is a great day for me, apart from what I'm doing here. I'm Ukrainian, Ukraine liberated one big city, and I think that what I want to share with you as well, that every activism campaign is about managing emotions. When you think that it's about the tools, it's about goals, it's not that right, because what war showed us Ukrainians, that basically if you manage emotions really well, your activist team would perform better. If you will drop your team in the middle of the journey, they will not perform well, you won't receive your goal, and it will be a total disaster. So one small example, Ukraine doesn't show how much Ukrainian army men are dying, so not to stress the emotional state of Ukrainians. Instead, they're infusing them with victory. So once you're doing an activism, whether it's Web3 or Web3 activism, think about the emotions within your team. Because the psychological state of people now it's much more important, because today we live in the world which is full of catastrophes. I was in Lisbon just several days ago, Web Summit, all these crypto events, and no one is talking about COVID, as if it doesn't exist, as if we were not isolated, there are no problems. And my friend who is a bit into Buddhism, and he was in Bucha in Ukraine, almost killed, he said, it's funny because people in crypto, they pretend that death doesn't exist. If we are invincible, if the code will be and live forever. And this is what's happening right now in the market. Everyone is fighting with each other. If you will think about this, if you will look around, you will see the critics everywhere. FTX, Binance, developers, marketers, one ecosystem, another ecosystem, and everyone is saying to each other, yeah, you're the bad one, I'm the right one, I'm true, I'm a builder, you're not builder, you're a marketer, you're shit, what you're doing in the market, and blah, blah, blah. Especially through all our journey, which starts with every speech like that. I'm in crypto since blah, blah, blah. As if it's, I don't know, as if it's the IMDb rating of who is the best of the best in crypto. And I think it's time to think a bit broader and think socially about Web3 activism. Because this is outskirts of Brno, and I just want to remind you that because of the COVID, we were super isolated. So now we need to reverse back and connect it with each other. And only by being connected with each other, we could do a really interesting activist campaigns that will last not just several weeks, but for a long period of time. Because we need to collaborate with people who we sometimes didn't like. Like, for example, again, I will mention Ukraine, there are lots of truck drivers collaborating with hipsters doing activism campaigns. If it won't be this crisis situation, they won't even talk with each other. They have nothing in common. But think about this, that maybe if you believe in Krishna, and then you meet someone who believes in Elon Musk, you need to collaborate tomorrow. This is a small trolling, because I found that there's a certain trend, post-COVID trend that's happening within Web3 industry as well, because we talk too much about Elon Musk, we talk too much about Balaji and his network states, and all these people, they want to opt out. They want to get out from the situation whenever it's a government, whenever they want to go to conquer Mars, or whenever they want to build a network state, or a digital state, or a startup nation. And it sometimes reminds, in a way, of this childish escapism from the reality. When activism is basically dealing with this reality, it's taking responsibility from reality. So I want you to find not the common ground with the Elon and Balaji, but think about how could we deal with reality and not just escape from this. And this is a direct quote from my girlfriend's mom, who is Catalan, and for example, the last person hanged by Franco dictator was her closest friend. It's happened, I think, in 70s. And she has really deep emotional relations with Catalonia as a project, as an idea. And each activism campaign is this idea that you need to share with others, and they would believe in this idea. So for example, when someone like Luna Punks wants to escape from the nation state and create a stateless society, they need to build their own new idea. That's why this brand looks so cool. That's why they're trying to emotionally appeal to people who would rather connect with them on emotional level. But then I'm asking, like all of you in this sense, because we are forgetting what is the true cost of revolution. Sometimes you die, sometimes you're punished, sometimes you feel really bad. It happens in crypto, in Latin America. Another guy has drowned recently. And this could be the price for an activism. This could be a price for active political participation. And I want to remind you that the crypto is political by default. I know that people tend to forget about this. Again, I'm returning to Lisbon. Within this small talk with people, no one talks about politics. Everyone talks about DeFi, staking, blah, blah. No one talks about politics, as if, you know, this decentralization is something like a fancy word that we all use. And here I want to present you what's happening right now with Web3 activism on a recent campaign that happens with Tornado Cash developer. I guess if I will ask the audience who know his name really well by memory, you will have troubles to remember, because everyone knows about Tornado Cash, everyone talks about Tornado Cash, but that's a real developer who is imprisoned in Netherlands, which is kind of gross and which is a big signal for the market, especially within the last signals from OFAC that stated that, okay, Tornado Cash is also a DAO, and DAO voters. Maybe tomorrow they will come for a DAO and say that, oh, you voters who supported the DAO, you're the one to blame. And now it's time to kind of defend yourself. I will say that I will start with this positive side for this campaign. The website has been created by his friends pretty immediately. They create an actionable point, sign a petition, share in social media, highlight the cause. The petition is a bit struggling to receive 5,000 signatures. If you ever participate in petitions, usually it's an instrument to get attention from the media and other institutions, like Web2 institutions that are out from this Web3 bubble or echo chamber. And lots of people within Web3 market, they're not experienced activists, so they don't know why they need to push the petitions forward. What's the point? If we could create a DAO, or we could transfer money, we could support the family within the crypto and stuff like that. But the reality is super simple. The guy is imprisoned in the real world, and you need to get attention from the real world actors. Then there are lots of different assets from the campaign. There's a Telegram, there's a group where a bunch of people, 700 people manage the campaign. Pretty random people from all over the world, from really high-skilled lawyers to generic designers, which is super cool and super fun. Usually it happens like this. These big working groups are a mess, and you need to manage them. Then there are offline events. Some opinion leaders from Bogota to Token 2049, they were talking about the cause, or they were explaining what's happening right now with the open source development, which is under risk. And some crypto media got attention. But if you Google the case, there are almost no Web2 media. There's no BBC, there's no big global media who are supporting the cause, because it's a bubble. And it's always nice to remember, so you would know how to operate working with the traditional media. Then there were more, like one guy went into Elbrus with the Free Alex message. The others went in Amsterdam for a rally in August this year with the T-shirts, the messages and things like that. And this is DAppCon in Berlin. I think that Russian-speaking community got together, engaged the crowd, and made these photos and saying that Alex, are we all? Because we don't know what will happen tomorrow. Maybe we will do the next solution, privacy solution, and OFAC will come for us. Basically, this is happening with me because I'm talking with the project that works on the privacy, and the first thing I'm asking myself, how to make so I won't go to jail. And that's an important question within our storytelling with the project, especially because they work with the sensitive markets. Also, there's a fundraising on the GitHub. Gitcoin, sorry. It's not that successful, but there is a campaign. A guy from the Metro Labs made the campaign. Not many people participated in it, but you know the Gitcoin is pretty tricky place to push the agenda forward, especially if this is activism and not development of a new fancy solution. And this is how management system looks like. So there's a project, one each, who are close friends of the guys, and they pouring their own money into the cause, using their field force, like PR managers who contribute to campaign, and there's the wife of the detained developer who answers the publicly questions on how it's going on, the progress with the case, how Alex feel himself, etc. And the community, if you see, it's just flying around. So there's a bit of chaos because it's a bit centralized. I truly believe that there should be a mixed model, especially for non-experienced activists, when you distribute the power and not try to hold the campaign management in one hand. Otherwise, if there's an emotional problem or certain self-censorship within the management staff, you will have a pretty big challenge. One example here, it's my sensitive topic. The guys are Russians, 1 inch, and one of them has ties to FSB because he finished the University of FSB. It's like if I would finish the University of Pentagon, I think I would be always Pentagon person. And I think it's a sensitive topic to be connected with Alex's case, and the biggest recommendation will be just get out from the light of the traditional media, traditional institutions, because this history that you could Google damage the whole purpose of the campaign. Because purpose of the campaign is get out of a certain political personal issues and go into this social movement. So basically, what's interesting here, what I want to highlight, that when you're thinking about Web3 activism here in this campaign, there's almost nothing to do on chain. Why? Because the wife is saying that we don't need a DAO yet. We don't need extra fundraising. Again, why? Because the friends are covering the costs. And it's pretty tricky for the Web3 movement to don't exist without simplified technical solutions, from DAO to, I don't know, to any grants. And this is a certain framework you need to crush within yourself or within the campaign and think about the mixed models. For example, what will happen if 90% of the campaign will be off-chain? What could be left there? For example, the DarkFi proposes we will go total anon on-chain. Then I'm questioning them if there will be a war, I don't know, the COVID, or another big hyperobject, it's called by philosopher Timothy Morton. What would you do? Would you really prefer to stay remotely from the big cause, especially when you connected emotionally or personally, or you would de-anon yourself, or you would connect with someone who would de-anon themselves? How would it even work? But what's interesting that there's this meaning stuff. Because of these events, off-chain events, you could really develop on-chain solution and not vice versa. But what's common here? Like, there's something in these activities that just isn't right. And I would say that it's a bit naive campaigning. Why? Because, for example, right now, the hashtag #FreeAlex is owned by Alex Jones, who is the ultra-right-wing guy from the States. And if you go Twitter and you will search #FreeAlex, it's fucked up. Like, really fucked up. You don't own the campaign. The Google says, oh, we don't see your hashtag. It doesn't work, and it's not that big. I would assume that it's not that big because we're stuck in this our bubble. We think that we have a great industry with lots of cool people, but then if something happens outside, then there is a trouble. For example, Buterin father, he fixes this in the different way. They create a foundation to help Ukraine, and he delegated all the field work to the professional fundraisers and the professional staff who will manage all the help for Ukrainians. And his side, he controls the fundraising, the multi-sig wallet and stuff like that. So they really split their tasks within the different people from the different components, with the different competencies. And also what's super important, if you will hear or read any narration according to Tornado Cash, you would see that there's no developer, as if this person never existed. It's just this Tornado Cash and lots of projects, people, opinion leaders, they talk about a fact, they talk about a Tornado Cash, but as if there were no developers. And imagine tomorrow you develop a solution, the world is buzzing about this solution, you got imprisoned or you die just by natural causes, and everyone forgets about you. And I think this is a big personal challenge, how to approach the project. So in this sense, when you develop a campaign, always think that as a multi-layer branding. The bigger brand, let's assume that here is like just open source industry, which is not even Web3. It's just all the developers who contribute to the open source software. Then you have this division on Web2, Web3 solutions, and then you have these smaller divisions like the Tornado Cash and the particular developer of the Tornado Cash. Think about this always, because not every mentioning of Tornado Cash contributes to the cause. Why this happening right now? What are the challenges within the campaigning for Free Alex? First of all, I would say that it's totally inexperienced team of activists who doesn't have any necessary experience on how to facilitate strategically campaigns. Then they don't understand that the people or the community inside, they're really great at participating within the campaign in August, but now almost no one doing nothing. So the curve is like that of participation, and it's normal for activism. People burn out super fast, especially when they read all the day FTX versus Binance news, and instead of contributing to the really valuable cause. And also, it's a pretty niche industry, so basically, it doesn't get this push when some, for example, the activists like the Signal recently CEO, she is activist, she is everywhere from the big conferences to the big media, she's a spokesperson. These people don't defend our industry. That's an interesting question, why I will describe it later. So I think that's a time for a soft reset and show how it could be done differently. And it's super simple. There are lots of frameworks. There were like thousands of campaigns all over the world, from Iran to Ukraine, from the USA to Japan, from China to, I don't know, to Poland, and just take something that really works. And even if it looks cheesy from design perspective, even if it sounds really stupid if you worked 10 years in communications like me, but in this sense, it really help to frame the campaign, because there's no public vision here. Public vision, free the developer, won't satisfy Binance team, for example, who doesn't give a shit about this one developer, but maybe they would care about the bigger cause that is a threat to open source development. So we need to find the storytelling that will connect with the bigger player who never seen this person, who never heard him, or maybe they never used the Tornado Cash. So that's important. Also, a certain goals is highly necessary, and goals that should be reframed always, maybe even each week. Because you need to just think about the pulse of the campaign. First week, it could be just raising awareness about the case, but then later, once you progress with the partners, institutions, media, opinion leaders, lawyers, you reframe the goals. It's okay to change the goal on your way. There's no problem with that. And here, another framework that could be useful for especially workshops, because I think the challenge within this campaign is that the Russian friends of Alex, they created a vision of the campaign, they invested their own money, they fundraised the Gitcoin, they ran away a bit fast. Some nice people from the community went to the Amsterdam rally. They really protested on streets. They went and protested in Bogota, within the other industrial events, within the podcasts, but it's not enough because there was never framed a campaign from the different sides discussing different challenges and discussing how we would collaborate together, especially when we live in different time zones, countries, we speak different languages, and we have access to different actors within the whole spectrum of partners that we needed. And what's super important, and I learned this from our Ukrainian campaigns, like when war started, we were thinking like what we could do. Everyone was thinking, lots of people, some people were kind of lost, and other people were thinking like, I want to contribute, but I don't know how. And I was thinking that, okay, so since no one knows Zelensky and his stuff abroad, maybe we could create, it's called right now memification, like using a Star Wars branding and this big hero's journey behind the Star Wars, we will apply our politicians to Star Wars, we will create this universe when they would become heroes of Reddit kids or the Twitter kids, and we will have really a great awareness and heroification of politicians who usually suck when you see them on camera. And I work with like 20, 30 people. Some of them were running from the bombs to the Western Ukraine, others were working from the shelters, some of them escaped to Poland, and the general problem with these people was that they were delivering fractures of the campaign. You cannot ask volunteers to kind of really dedicate their time because they work for free. So in this sense, what this graphic shows that different people participate in campaigning in different way. So you really need to understand psychological portrait of the person. Is this girl a reliable manager, a really great facilitator of the campaign, but maybe she sucks with financials, and financials are a big trauma for her. Or another guy is super creative, but he sucks in management. So we need a really well-balanced activist campaign team, otherwise you will think that everyone would be here, everyone would be great, otherwise all the people would be here. And then when there will be failure, and when your team would lost motivation, because basically you manage motivation, all the campaign will be dead. That's what's happening with Free Alex now, because guys are not engaging community every week, pushing the narration forward, community burnout. In times when there are lots of talented people from the NIM to whatever company, to, I think there are Gnosis guys in the community, like lots of valuable people for this cause. And I think that we have a certain interesting dilemma, Luna Park dilemma it's called. Kinda, the more anonymous you go, the less you can expose yourself to the public. The less you can go and show your face. But in times of really necessary participation of chain, like talking with the media or talking with a certain activist institution, non-profit institution that could really share the knowledge. It's really hard to be anon, in the sense that maybe you can have a pixelized avatar, but not that many serious NGOs would go with you to online Zoom just because you're a cool avatar. So it's interesting to think about this, what kind of image you present, maybe also being anon. Maybe it's also this kind of like, there's one guy in StarCraft scene, I think he's from Denmark, and he never publishes his photos, called Max Pax, and he plays really crazy, and basically missing photo is a compliment to his crazy style. So he has this kind of online image that I'm a crazy, but I'm also a creative. So maybe being anonymous is also a responsibility to create a certain role for yourself, especially when you need to collaborate with lots of people. In times when some of them would be volunteering for you. And somehow they need to trust your anonymity. They need to trust in you. Maybe it's interesting challenge for the people who expose their knowledge, whenever it's like a text, a video, or a code, or a GitHub, or a radical repository. It's also the challenge on, okay, what kind of image I create. And please don't be afraid of a word image. It's just how others perceive you on the street as well. Your clothes, your haircut, whatever. So in this sorry. So I think the really important, what would help campaign is just to lose this control over the subject and give power to the community. Community won't destroy Alex's case, it won't harm him, it won't bring stress to the family or to the lawyers. I don't know the real idea why the friends and the family cannot let go the case and said, community, let's collaborate, we need designers, managers, whatever, and we need to supply you with all the information you need, and we want to be 100% transparent, because in this case, especially there's a Russia-sensitive topic, you need to be 100% transparent and be ready to give everything, all the information to the community. So then community could really stand up and fight for you. Otherwise, lots of campaigns would die. But then there is a question here. Do you really need a family to make your own campaigning? Do you really need approval from detained person? I don't think so, especially when you create, you could create a parallel DAO that will fight for the open source development without emphasizing so much a particular person, if this person is a sensitive topic. In which sense you can fight for the open source development Tornado Cash case and then specify that one of the goals of the campaign is the freedom for the Alex. And not putting maybe Alex on top of your campaigning. That's also possible, especially when you have a barrier emotional. Maybe everyone is stressed in the family. And when people are stressed, they cannot think logically, they cannot get themselves. It's like, I was listening to the interview of the defenders of Mariupol, and it's interesting that lots of army guys who were these macho guys trying to pretend that they're cool, once the war started, they became paralyzed. So maybe it's the same case. Like you need to find someone psychologically resilient who could lead campaign further and collaborate with community. And then also the vision should be bigger than the simplified cause, because the bigger the vision, the simplified the vision, in this sense, you can translate it to you can engage lots of different actors within the different needs and within the different perception of the market. Think about this. How you would approach a developer who is criticizing crypto all the time, who is thinking that crypto is bullshit, but you need help of this person to campaign with you. How would you explain how you would make this cause universal for this person? How you will make it really appealing emotionally for someone who is skeptical? Within the media, that's the smallest example. Within a person who doesn't understand how Tornado Cash even works, when you need to confront the OFAC opinion that these Korean hackers were doing money laundering. So this is a really strong argument you need to fight with. And the biggest thing you could do, play emotionally. The Chomsky manufacturing consent was exposing how media are framing narration. You could use this tool for your social good campaigning. You could really use the approach that media is doing with propaganda, because every campaign is a pure propaganda. And there's nothing wrong here, because here propaganda is basically raising awareness for the cause, igniting people with your cause, sharing responsibility, and then leading towards results. And also what's interesting here, that if we step out of the bubble and ask ourselves a question like, okay, guy could be anonymous to people from Venezuela, but then you should search for certain ideas that could ignite them as well. Maybe they don't work in crypto in Web3, but maybe they work with IT startups. Maybe they work with open source software. Maybe they manage Ubuntu or Linux, and their own, they should see themselves in this cause. And it's possible to do with this big vision. That's why I like that if you will simplify the cause and the vision and the goal, you can reach more people and you can ignite more people within your activist campaign. Otherwise, it will be too niche, it will be too small, and it will be too out of the spectrum of the all information and power structures you need to affect. And also this thing like, but how we would collaborate with the media, traditional PR agencies, non-profits. I would say that the smarter way is to engage Web2 community, then ask them about the first layer connections. Okay, you have a connections in BBC, within the, I don't know, the big podcasts out of the Web3 market, let's collaborate. And then go to Web3 people without already build an umbrella of your storytelling partners. If you go to a website of FreeAlex, there's no partners. It sucks, because you can really find lots of interesting partners right now, like Signal Messenger, like technological partners, NGO partners, private law firms that could really support you. And you can show that it's not our campaign of the friends or a wife, it's something bigger. That's basically the idea behind the really good campaigning. You need to show that each case of campaigning is something bigger than this small niche thing of related with one person. And then what's interesting that I found that lots of Web2 people or people out of the market, they find it super complex. And I was laughing recently, my girlfriend said that I'm a smart person, but I cannot understand what you do. And I'm like, I was like thinking for a second without trying to explain her, and then I understood that our market makes it so complex just because market wants to. Like not many ecosystem players want to really simplify onboarding into crypto for random people. WorldCoin is doing this, but okay, that's one thing from for WorldCoin. I was in Uganda and I've seen the orb in the supermarket, like a big mega mall, and it's funny that they claim that they will onboard 1 billion people into crypto in times when in Africa lots of people, they don't have internet, or they have internet by megabytes. So they don't have megabytes to learn how to make crypto within the WorldCoin application. And because WorldCoin application doesn't have an instant token that you can sell and buy yourself a bread, a clothes, or a water, they find it useless, and in this sense, WorldCoin is basically a tool for mid-class people to play. So when you go a step out of the market, it really helps you to look at this from a side, like what's really happening, how people see us, how I could explain. If someone, let's imagine, there's a guy called Greenberg who wrote lots on Russian hackers, Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, and stuff like that. So he now works for Wired. He's super great journalist. But when you approach him with the avatar of an ape or whatever, Degan, he wouldn't find you serious, although he is super pro-activist, he is super supportive within the tech scene, and it's interesting like how we would even approach these people who are out of our subculture. What kind of manager we need to have to be there, to stay aside, who won't betray us, but would really help to build the link between the anonymity and the others. Yeah, and also, like, I know how you dislike traditional services, like Notion, for example, but then you need to think about the tools that you use. Think of them from customer development perspective. How much time it would take for someone, non-crypto, to understand how to use it. but don't try to judge from your experience because you're an experienced user. Like recently one project who is about the privacy payment asked me to help with the Ukrainian and Russian NGOs and to provide this privacy preserved payment. And I checked how it works, and I understood that for someone from the NGO to just find out how it works, from MetaMask to Signer, to send some crypto, to hide it, to provide instruction, it's like weeks of works. Because sometimes we think that the person from Web2 market who would be engaged in our project, he would be so passionate and dedicated that he will spend 5 hours a day to educate himself, herself, or themselves. You're wrong, because this person would, it's like these poor people in Uganda. They would go and they will drive Boda, which is the motorcycle, and they will make real money instead of promise crypto somewhere there. So we need to always think about what kind of tools we're using, and I strongly suggest to have a mixed model. Some tools like Tor or a Brave browser could be Web3 centric, others could be Web2, while you need to engage Web2 people in your campaigning. Then the roles, sometimes we think that everyone could do campaigning and activism. That's not true. I like what Alona is doing with the Ukrainian DAO because she's a fighter. And for your cause, you need this role model, a fighter, someone who will be in the forefront of your campaign and will be also banned from Twitter. I am banned on Facebook, still 5 days left. Like these social media, they are banning everyone, but you need a fighter so your campaign will be alive, will burn, and will be hyperactive. To find this person, you need a really deep emotional motive behind engagement of this person. We are planning to make a call with Alona, but I'm not sure right now about her personal motivation, but I would say that it's emotional depth within this Ukrainian cause, and then she goes to ETH Barcelona, she goes to the news, she's everywhere, she's spokesperson, but basically she's ambassador. So I think since you're in crypto, think of this as a real ambassador, not a fake ambassador that wants your tokens, but the one who would be with you not forever, but within a certain campaign goal. And you need to really search for the motivation of the person and really make them find the passion. Passion is better than the really high management skills because it drives others. And then try to separate the roles, because operational efficiency and the spokesperson, sometimes it's a mess, because sometimes needs to make numbers and reporting, another person needs to really hustle offline or online, and try to separate these roles. What interesting is here is that analyze the cases that we passed, like for example, DAO. DAO is a fancy thing that everyone drops here in a while, everywhere, and then, for example, with the Assange DAO, what was the challenge is that they fundraised a lot of money, but in the end, they wanted to preserve the privacy of their members, and they want to be extra anonymous within their funds. And in this sense, basically, they're a bit stuck. They remind me a bit the Spice DAO, because I'm a fan of Alejandro Jodorowsky, and the Spice DAO bought out the blueprint or the sketchbook for Dune, and they wanted to make a movie, and then suddenly they missed it for the IP rights on the movie, or the Frank Herbert's Dune. So basically, there was no legal officer who is super good in IP who would suggest them, don't buy this book, buy rights, I don't know, to Frank Herbert Dune or to something else, or go to Warner Brothers or whatever studio is managing this. So in this sense, try to think about more broadly. Okay, you have a DAO. What would happen there? What kind of governance you need? You need just financial governance, or you need some participation governance? You need to vote for something. But what will happen if your DAO member would burn out? And in activism, it happens all the time. All the time people burn out and have issues, and imagine that this person was super important for the campaign. Would DAO die? Would DAO be emotionally corrupted in this sense? That's a challenge that we face today, and I would say that try to think about DAO as an institution, like find a metaphor in your outside. Like for example, when I used to DJ and we had the promo group, we had really different mindsets. Some people preferred commercial music, others preferred underground. I was like underground fighter. Then there were people like youngsters who were more passionate but less cool within the music. And it's just an organization of the different people with different aspirations, and then you need to find a common goal. And then there will be a moment when it will die. So we need to pass it to the next generation. That's what's happened with our project, and it lived for quite a while. But you really need to think about this as the bunch of really different people with the different motives and the different states, especially emotional states. And collaborate with more experienced non-government institutions or organizations. Try not to think that everything that happens in Web3 you could just copy and basically copy-paste every campaign. No, find people who will give you an ideas how to reach your vision and how to reach your goals. Maybe, for example, within the Alex case, the idea is to make an open-air hackathon in Amsterdam when you code in front of the municipality, and basically raising awareness among all these tourists and people who go to Amsterdam, and you see there's a community, and you have this generator, and you show to the world that hackers are open-minded. I'm not saying, here is a contrast with anonymity, but that's a different cause. I'm saying that you would find these people who would go and dare expose themselves publicly. Or maybe you can wear a certain mask and code like Occupy movement. So the visual identity is super important. So people from these organizations, they could help you to explain how the movement should live. For example, we are thinking that Black Lives Matters started just several years ago, but then we go crash course on Black Lives Matters, and we understood this, that all the basis, the introduction to the movement happened many years ago because of the police brutality and small activist steps that built let's say the experience of how to protest with the police, what we would do when we go outside, how we will exploit themselves, especially because police of the states have the database of the video cameras, CCTV cameras, and they have all the photos of protesters. If you really follow the cause, you've seen that there were like, I don't know, thousands of photos of protesters leaked online, and basically police was saying, if you know any information who this person is, we will give you money. Or be a conscious citizen, help us to find these bastards, which is pretty fucked up. And then it's interesting, when the cause is detention, there are thousands of people around the world also detained illegally. And here is a funny fact. Like, he is a software developer, but then the question, my question to you and to the whole community is like, did we stand up and fight when other software developers were detained? Or did we code and went for a partying because, you know, it's not our market, it's not our deal, by another software developer? And it's a mirror. And it's happened, and this is okay because we have a certain political ignorance. But when we grow up, when we become more mature, we understand that it's interconnected world from which we cannot opt out, but we need to collaborate, and we really need to collaborate also with these organizations, especially because there are lots of interesting people who disclose the digital surveillance systems which are linked directly with your privacy preservation solutions. So the better you would, the more you would be connected with the managers of the campaigns, the better you will know the surveillance tool, the better tools you could create to fight back. I will wrap up super quickly. First of all, there are lots of things you could do. It's not about just going protesting, it's not about just making a hunger strike, but there are thousands of ways how you could participate and collaborate in activism. And the best way is to go and do a workshop. It could be online, it could be unknown, whatever, but it really works. One of the simple things you could do, but now it's a bit blocked by the wife and the friends, send the letters. When the Ukrainian film director Sentsov was imprisoned in Russia, my ex-wife was sending him, with my help, because I lived in Moscow, lots of letters, because she was producer of his movie. And they had this interesting, nice emotional bond while a person was imprisoned. And emotional help and emotional support is something you could also provide to another person. So this person would really feel that this is the big market. This is the industry that cares about me. This is a real community feeling. I don't have time, but I will be fast. Another iChain found example. Look how many people are here with multi-signers. For 7 people in the team, it's a lot. Then the campaigning is super complex. They need to buy lots of things outside, paying with fiat, transferring crypto to fiat, working with the NGOs, buying food, and think about and also collaborating with this crypto debit card, so they would help people directly in the country without using third-party services, some shady people who exchange bitcoins into hryvnias and stuff like that. Try to think about the complexity of the campaign, it will help. Also, there are data with the fundraising that you could use to understand which community is better to work with. As you see here, this sucks, or they didn't work with them, or they ignored the cause. If these communities ignore the cause, it's interesting to think, why some people from Polkadot should care about me? Why they should put my cause in the center of their ecosystem and stand out? The Ilya from Near stood up because he's Ukrainian. But again, with the helicopter view, what they're doing on-chain and off-chain, there's nothing much was going on chain, just fundraising and managing of funds. Multisig is nice, but then we have this thing with Near DAO. Near made a DAO for this campaign. This DAO worked for, a week. Why you even need a DAO to transfer this money to right people? I mean, it's this fancy thing that ecosystems are doing right now, like let's create a DAO for the sake of DAO, but then when they don't work with their own ecosystem, they don't promote the values of DAO, they don't drive participation, it's a bit of shady business, although I admire that they donated a lot. And then when you think about the traditional media as your partners, and they would like to support you, but you need to explain crypto in kind of non-crypto way, non-toxic way, in really this liberation, freedom, and aspiration. There are lots of books about this subject, and there are lots of references. I will tell them later. But think also about them as biased people. That will help you to pass this barrier of perception. Toolkit. This is Ukraine DAO toolkit, which kind of like, if you're a hardcore Lunapunk, you would say, oh fuck, like it sucks. There are lots of centralized tools. But then, if you think about volunteers who are students who never done any crypto and they're just newcomers into the market, you need to use soft power. You need to guide them slowly towards the nice ecosystem tools you would use. And think also like why you need, for example, transparency with funds in Notion. Maybe because you can edit them super fast, and maybe there are people without multi-sig responsibilities who could do something else beside your Web3 tools. And when you do this fancy development, for example, for your DAO, this is again example of Ukraine DAO. I don't know why they even do this. Just don't do GitHub if you want to fake it, or you just want to play with it. Make a hackathon. Really think why you need this GitHub or Radical. Like what developers or contributors for all around the world would do this there. And last thing, but I will share presentation so you would read it, know your risks. Because the risks are super high, and sometimes your ignorance could lead to your imprisonment. First, fast, Pussy DAO is fighting with Ukrainian DAO, claiming who are the one behind the original idea, which sucks because they need to collaborate. And these fancy hipsters from the States with other DAO are a part of this. Second, that even the Assange, in the case of Assange, his big friend, no friend, like his pal from WikiLeaks betrayed him. So think about what will happen if someone from your team would be from another site, which is all right, it's life, it's normal, but then would DAO die, would our money be stolen, would our cause would be compromised? And if you think about that, don't try to make a centralized structure that will depend only on one people or a decision of one person. And the problem is like activism burns lots of energy, and try to protect yourself psychologically and your team. And this is an example. This is a really great philosopher, but he committed suicide because, yeah, you know, capitalism sucks and he cannot bear it a lot. Some recommendations: there's a new book from Greenberg that will be in stores in a few days. Great investigative journalism. It's really great that he is writing about crypto shady guys, because it's good to not just pretend that our industry is great and full of fluffy unicorns, but also full of shady people that we need to stand out and say, no, they're not, they don't represent the industry. And then Chelsea Manning, which is good because she is a whistleblower. She works with NEEM right now, but also she is showing the complexity behind activism, because she's a transgender person, and all her activism happened while she was in this transition to an activism, being highly impacted by abusive father. And it's life. It's like normal. And Cyborg Manifesto, since Lorna Parks use speculative fiction, Donna Haraway is the best for speculative fiction, is the forefront of the cyber feminism. Check the movie called Titan. It will help to kind of like stretch perception on what we do here. And just remember that we all are mortal, and in this sense, if you will burn out, go away, move to another country, go to ashram, think about what will stay after you, so other people would use your code. Because I've seen many repositories in GitHub that are dead, people are not there, but the ideas were super cool, and they deserve to live after you. Thank you very much. I hope I gave you some ideas. So the Web3 activism could be more mature, interesting, fun, because if it's not fun, it's super hard. And God bless Ridley Scott.
Thank you for the talk. We have room for one question. Is there any question? Okay, if not, thank you for the talk. And
yeah, thank you very much. I'm here anyways.